please. Ask the jury to come in, please. Thank you, Sheriff.
I was trying to read a little faster. I feel like I'm messing up so much. I can't help it. I'm very nervous. I'll try.
All right, we're back in session. The jurors are all present. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go till 5 o'clock. We don't have any reports as of right now of any kind of precipitation in Wake County. So I think you'll be able to go home safely if we continue until 5 o'clock. And when you leave, I'll give you some other instructions about our intentions for tomorrow. All right, Mr. Gaskins, do you have further questions?
Yes. Yes. Grant the Third wants to be in a polygamist relationship, and I didn't. Grant the Third believes that sex is a tool. I believe it is a gift. Grant the Third will use sex as a tool to get what he wants, mold behavior, incur financial gains, and manipulate a situation. This is a problem because he consistently picks people who don't believe the same thing about sex as him. Grant the Third believes that he is a chosen person, hailed by beings from outer space. I think Grant the Third has some issues. He hears aliens talking to him. He believes that they follow him wherever he goes and that they have plagued his family. He ran into our baby's room with a bat one time, because he thought that the aliens were fucking with him, quote. And then he ran outside with the bat. I didn't call the police / the hospital on him when I should have. I allowed my low self-esteem and everyone else's input around us to influence my decisions. They all told me that Grant the Third was so wonderful because he sings, plays guitar, draws, and can charm the pants off anyone, and we were around only his friends. I had zero input from anyone on, quote, my side, except for people whom Grant the Third ridiculed regularly. So, of course, their input was not considered. The world will end on December 21st, 2012. This belief became a serious problem when he started to, quote, prophecy, end quote, to our friends. Also, he runs his life by this belief and allows himself to have zero moral values. He thinks the ends justify the means, as long as he can get enough cash to make it onto one of those alien ships at the end of the planet.
Going over to the next page, question number 57. Between the start and end of your relationship with the other parent, do you think that the other parent was involved with other persons in any romantic or intimate relationships? And the answer is yes.
The impact? This has been the whole situation. Grant III has had a girlfriend since 7 months into our four-year relationship. The time that she came in contact with Grant IV that I know of is when Grant and Kristen had sex in my home while I was gone one day. Amanda is playing mom 5 days a week to our children and funding Grant III's career and custody fight. Grant is an abusive person. Everything he does shocks me, and I don't want to underestimate his potential for damaging behaviors. Yes.
Question number 80. Do you believe that the other parent might contemplate limiting the access between you and any of the children? Answer yes. And going down to the second paragraph.
Grant III is trying to keep Amanda and I from being friendly.
And then the next sentence that's highlighted.
Amanda and I had been talking in a friendly manner about Grant IV and Gentle. We were able to laugh and share concerns and suggestions.
Page 2957.
Yes.
Question number 90. Describe what you believe to be the best parenting, visitation, or residence schedule and arrangements for the children, indicating the schedule for days and the hours that each of the children would be in your care and the care of their other parent during regular, non-holiday, and non-special occasions. Going down about 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs. Would you read the 4th paragraph?
I also expect that once the, quote, fight, end quote, of this custody case is over, Grant III will lose interest in the boys and move on to something more exciting, as he has in the past. My understanding of why he is fighting for them is this. I think that he convinced Amanda that I am crazy and that he needs her help saving the children from me. This gets her to marry him very quickly because it's an emergency and gives Grant III instant access to her funds and the ability to get alimony when they divorce. Also, he sees the children as sort of a, quote, gift, end quote, to Amanda. They make her feel important and loved, and he gets to benefit from her positive feelings towards them because Gentle and Grant IV are Grant III's children. This ties Grant III and Amanda's relationship together without having to have a real solid foundation.
Question number 96. What level of hostility do you feel now exists between you and the other parent? And the answer was severe.
That's correct.
That is the answer. Sorry. Number 97. This hostility has also included.
Laura marked financial manipulation / control, withhold access to the children, strong expressions of dislike, other verbal violence / abuse, other list, custodial interference / kidnapping of the children, alienation of the children's affection. I don't have that one highlighted on here. The next one I have highlighted is on 2961, and it's the second paragraph down.
Okay, I'm sorry, good. Track down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 paragraphs. That starts with Grant 3 tries to use fear.
Grant III tries to use fear to control and manipulate. He builds a story up about the demise of the American government and ends with the, quote, fact, end quote, that the children won't stand a chance with a poor, weak, crazy, white trash woman like me. I have text messages printed on this for your review.
First paragraph of the, or first sentence of the next paragraph.
Grant III has told his parents that he wishes I were dead. Ask his mom. She may tell you the truth.
And then the final paragraph of that page, the first sentence.
Grant III tells, quote, stories, end quote, about people he has killed.
So we're on the next page. Do you have highlights on the next page?
Yes.
The second full paragraph.
I have seen Grant III pull knives out in public places to threaten fellow musicians. I have seen him destroy people's lives by promising them everything and delivering nothing but lies. I have been shot at by Grant III with an air gun full of pellets in one of his, quote, blackouts, end quote, after a cocaine binge witnessed by a mutual friend of ours, Clay King. In our current situation, Grant III wants me out of the picture so that I cannot interfere in the lives of our children. He wants to raise them to be what he hasn't achieved yet, his, quote, 401k plan, end quote, retirement plan, end quote, and his, quote, empire, end quote. He wants me out of his life so that I cannot interfere with his new wife. He has cursed at his parents for interfering with me or for telling me what was really going on in Grant III's mind. An actual world takeover plan that has no barriers, no morals, and he has zero empathy for anyone. It sounded insane to me until February of 2010 when Grant III, quote, revealed, end quote, the, quote, master plan, end quote, behind all of his actions himself.
Number 98, describe how you and the other parent have planned for the children and have resolved differences of opinion regarding the welfare of the children in the past 3 months. Has this been typically by telephone, in meetings through therapists, mediators, attorneys through the books, or others? If you read the
In the last 3 months, there have been attempts from myself and from Amanda to communicate about the children. Whenever any lighthearted communication occurs between Amanda and I, Grant III, quote, stirs the pot, end quote.
Question number 100. What level of hostility do you feel is likely to exist between you and the other parents at 6 months from now? Will you read that paragraph?
I don't know what the level of hostility will be. It will most likely be one of two extremes. Either he will be, quote, very severe, end quote, in order to scare me into not participating with the kids, or there will be a, quote, none, end quote, because he will have forgotten about the kids and moved on to other things like his career.
Question number 101. The hostility is likely to include
Laura marked financial manipulations / control, strong expressions of dislike, other verbal violence / abuse, other threats of personal physical violence, actual personal physical violence, withhold access to the children, custodial interference / kidnapping of the children, alienation of the children's affection.
on the next page, question number 105. Are there any additional significant issues that might be raised regarding the care, welfare, parenting, visitation, or residence of the children that you have not already mentioned? Will you read that paragraph?
Her answer was yes. I am of the belief that Grant III has a personality disorder. After living with him for almost 4 years, I have found a few labels that fit him, but one that is near perfect: sociopath. The others are narcissist, borderline personality, and psychopath. He likens himself to the main characters of these movies: 6 Degrees of Separation with Will Smith, the talented Mr. Ripley. Grant III has told me that he is the character depicted in these movies.
Number 106, is there any additional information, either positive or negative, that you would like to have considered in this evaluation? Answer yes, or you could answer the last sentence in that paragraph.
If external fear doesn't work, he threatens in an open-ended fashion, i.e., quote, "One of my friends will hurt you, or I will take the children away from you and turn you into a bag lady," end quote.
Question number 107, summarize what you believe to be the most important issues and concerns that you wish to have considered. Read the highlighted portion of the first paragraph.
My children are in an at-risk situation every minute they spend with Grant III. He has been an alcoholic since before I first met him, and a coke addict, pill popper, and marijuana smoker, on top of being an abusive, impulsive, controlling tyrant with zero ability to actually love. He isn't fit to be in control of another human being's life, especially not young children.
Paragraph below that.
Grant III and Amanda just married and met only a few months prior to that. When the honeymoon phase ends, I expect our children to again be used as tools by Grant III to maintain control over his relationship with Amanda. I don't know how they will be used, but I am no longer shocked by anything that Grant III does and totally expect this kind of behavior as a, quote, given, unquote. In Grant III's life, there are several, quote, main characters, end quote. 90% of these people are drug addicts and felons. I have photos of Grant III with Grant IV over the years, with one example, Samir Sanjar, and a background check on Samir for your review. This is available for Frank Goodrich, an ex-roommate from 5400 Summit Manor Lane, and Paul Hutchins, a previous business partner. There are numerous examples, but to keep from being redundant, I have listed only these 3.
Okay, do you have questions? Okay.
Ms. Schumacher, you have been handed and asked to read from parts of this child custody evaluation report. And that's a report that was prepared by Dr. Ginger Calloway, is that right?
Yes.
And you've testified that Laura shared with you the parenting history that you've been asked to read a great deal from. Is that right?
Yes.
So had you read all of those things that you've read here in court?
I had skimmed through it with Laura,
Okay, and what was the purpose of you reading through that with Laura?
just to make sure she didn't misspell things. I frequently edited things for her.
Okay, so you had a part in writing some of this.
I didn't physically write any of it. She had it completed before I saw it.
Okay, so when you say editing, what do you mean?
I mean, if she misspelled things or just like grammar, things like that.
So spelling or grammar?
Yes.
So the information that's contained in there is information that Laura herself put forward?
Yes.
And that was part of this whole process, wasn't it? That she was asked a set of questions, and you've been asked some of those questions or to read her responses. But that's part of Dr. Calloway's procedure in going through this whole process.
Yes, and Laura wanted to be honest.
Okay. And you were aware that Grant, being the father, was asked to kind of go through and provide kind of his response to those questions.
Yes.
Were you aware that Dr. Calloway did home visits where she had contact at Grant and Amanda's home here in Raleigh and looked at the situation and did her own evaluation there in the home?
Yes.
And she also did that at Laura's house, is that right, at Laura's apartment?
Yes, that's correct.
And she talked to you extensively, Dr. Calloway?
Yes.
Were you aware that she interviewed Amanda Hayes?
Yes. Yes, that's correct.
That included other healthcare providers as well as other psychologists that might have some information in this.
Yes, that's correct.
And, I mean, were you aware that the report that you've been reading from was almost 60 pages long?
Yes.
Okay, and so that included all of that type of information as well as the information from the various interviews that she conducted as well as the home visits. Is that right?
I believe this was just Laura filling this out.
Okay, so you didn't have the whole report that was up there, you just had the part that dealt with the parenting survey?
Yes.
And you were aware that Dr. Calloway's purpose in getting this information was to make a recommendation to the court as to where these children should reside or what the custody arrangement should be.
Yes.
Ultimately, the court made that decision, but she made a recommendation based on her expertise and information gathering and that type of thing.
Yes, she would have if given the chance.
Okay, well, she prepared a report, didn't she?
Yes, but it never went to the custody actual hearing because that was August 15th. It would have been August 15th, 2011.
And you, I believe, had testified earlier that you had spoken with Laura after she got Dr. Calloway's report back.
Yes, but I never viewed that one.
Okay. She just shared with you that she had gotten that back.
Yes, and she said she was excited about it.
And did she indicate to you that Dr. Calloway had recommended that the parents share custody in this case?
No.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
I could see
Which one would you like?
the highlighted.
Okay.
Ms. Schumacher, you've handed me Defendant's Exhibit 24A, and this is the copy, the highlighted copy that you were reading from. Is
Yes,
that right?
that's correct.
And I just wanted to, not everything's highlighted on every page, is that
No.
right?
Yeah, well, that's correct. Not everything is highlighted.
Turning your attention to what's identified as page 41 of this report, which I believe is about four pages in, and I want to show you the highlighted portion. There's a large paragraph here at the bottom. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And you were asked to, in that entire paragraph, except for 2 sentences was highlighted. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Can you read the part that's not highlighted in that paragraph?
This would also explain her uncalled for hostile behavior towards me. Please note that I wrote her a thank you note for everything she has done for my family when she bought me a plane ticket to come get Grant IV in March 2010. I have maintained that attitude with her at all times.
May I approach the witness again?
You may.
And so this paragraph, and if you could hold that up, show the jury the length of the paragraph that you've just read from, and point out the 2 sentences that are unhighlighted. And when you say this would account for her hostility towards me, uncalled for hostility towards me, who is the she?
In the previous sentence, it refers to Amanda.
Thank you, that's all I have.
All right, anything else? Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you. If you would, Mr. Gaskins, you want to retrieve your exhibit, please? Thank you, ma'am. You have another witness?
We do, Your Honor. I think she's in our office, and we'll be bringing her down.
Okay, sure. Say again?
Shay Elmer.
Okay.
She's on there as Shay Gadat.
Okay, so it's S-H-A, Shay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There's a Bible right up here. If you just walk up there, put your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand, please. Thank you.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Can I retrieve the documents?
You may. If you slip up real close to the mic and speak right into the mic, I think that will help everybody be able to hear you. Thank you. You might want to pull the mic closer to you as well. Thank you. Thank you. All right, go ahead.
Ma'am, could you state your name for the record?
Shay Gadat
And currently, where do you live?
in Farmington, New Mexico.
And do you know the defendant in this case, Amanda Hayes?
Yes,
How is it that you know her?
she's my mother.
Can you just point to that person here in the court and indicate an item of clothing she's wearing?
Pink jacket and a white shirt.
Your Honor, I just asked the record to reflect this identity of the defendant.
I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Thank you. Shay, where did you grow up?
I grew up all over the place.
Okay. Well, where were you born?
Farmington, New Mexico.
Okay. And what was your father's name?
Scott.
And what was, I guess, what's your maiden name or your last name before you got married?
Elmer.
Okay. And how long was your mother and Scott married?
Maybe a little over a year.
Okay. And do you know about how old your mother was when she had you?
Just turned 17.
Okay. And at some point, your mother and father split up, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And when that happened, where did the defendant, Amanda Hayes, where did she go?
As far as I know, she lived in the house that they lived in whenever I was born for a while.
Okay. And then at some point, did she move away from New Mexico?
Yes.
Okay. And did you go with her?
Yes.
And if you could you tell the jury sort of where you and your mother moved to in the next years, sort of through your high school?
We moved to Lubbock, Texas, and lived in Lubbock until I was in 3rd or 4th grade, and we moved to Austin. I went and lived with my dad for a couple of years in elementary school, and then we moved to New York whenever I was in junior high.
And at some point, did your mother remarry?
Yes.
And what was that person's name?
Nikki Smith.
And Mr. Smith unfortunately passed away, is that correct?
Yes.
After that marriage, did your mother marry again?
Not until Grant.
Okay. And you mentioned that you were living in New York when you were in junior high.
Yes.
What was Amanda doing for a living when you were in New York?
She was going to acting school.
And did Amanda have a career as an actress?
Yes.
Could you tell the jury some of the stuff that she might have been in?
She did community theater all through my childhood. And then after she finished her film and television degree in New York, she had done some extra roles in The O.C., The Sopranos, and then she was a extra stand-in for The Stepford Wives.
About how old were you when the defendant was in The Stepford Wives?
I think I was in 7th grade.
When y'all lived in New York, is that when the defendant was working on her acting career?
Yes.
Okay. And at that time, do you know, are you aware of your mother in your financial situation?
I know that we were fed and taken care of.
Okay. Now, at some point, did you move with your mother to the Virgin Islands?
Yes.
And when was that?
My junior year of high school.
And what instigated the move to the Virgin Islands?
My mom had gone on vacation there and she loved it, and at that point I was living with my dad, and she came to visit me and we decided that I was going to move back with her
And so where did you move?
to St. John.
And what did you and your mother do for a living in St. John?
We owned an art supply store.
And did you work in that art supply store?
I did.
And at some point, did you meet Grant Hayes?
Yes.
At that point, had your mother already met Grant Hayes?
Yes.
Could you tell the jury about that?
My mother had told me about a musician who was living on the island who sounded a lot like Darius Rucker.
At some point, did your mother also get a real estate license and a cosmetology license?
Yes.
Was that back when y'all were in New York?
In Texas.
Texas, okay. When your mom told you this, did you recognize that description of the person like Darius Rucker? Did you already know Grant Hayes?
No.
And then at some point later, did you meet Grant?
Yes.
And how did you come about meeting him?
He came into the art supply store looking for a sketchbook for a project he was doing for one of the local schools.
Okay. Was he an artist?
Yes.
At some point, did you become aware that your mother and Grant Hayes were in a romantic relationship?
Not until much later.
Okay. How many months later?
November of 2009.
Were you living with your mother at that time in St. John's?
Yes.
And when you found out about that relationship, how long had it been going on?
I don't know if they were romantically involved, but I realized that something was going on right around Thanksgiving.
That was November of 2009.
Yes.
Did y'all continue to live in the Virgin Islands while your mother and Grant dated?
Till December 31st of 2009 is whenever we left St. John.
And why did you leave St. John?
My mom and I had decided that we were going to move to New York.
And
Move back to New York.
Why did your mom and you decide to move back to New York?
A number of different reasons, but mainly it was something that both of us wanted to do. I wanted to go to school, and she was supporting me in that choice.
And at some point, was your mother dating another man during that time?
Yes.
And that was while she was dating Grant Hayes?
No.
Okay, before?
Before.
Okay. And could you explain to the jury the interaction of that person in decision to move?
He had gone a little bit crazy that my mom broke up with him.
Okay. And so y'all decided to move to New York to get away from him?
Yes.
Okay. When you and your mother moved to New York, did you plan on Grant Hayes coming with you?
No.
At some point, did Grant Hayes show up on your doorstep?
Yes.
And when was that?
January 16th, 2010.
And how is it that you remember that date so clearly?
Because I was not expecting him.
Was your mother expecting him?
I think she's the one who bought his plane ticket.
Now, when you and the defendant were living in New York with Grant, did Grant Hayes move in with y'all?
Showed up with 2 suitcases.
Okay. So he moved in?
Yes.
Were the three of you living in an apartment in New York?
Yes.
At some point, did you become aware that Grant had children in North Carolina?
Yes. 2 boys.
And when was the first time that you learned that he had those 2 boys in North Carolina?
I don't recall exactly when.
Is it something that you were aware of when you were in the Virgin Islands?
It was a rumor that I had heard that he had kids.
So in January of 2010, when the 3 of y'all are living together in New York, did you become aware of a person named Laura Ackerson?
Yes.
And at some point, did Grant go back to North Carolina?
In February of 2010.
And did he return from North Carolina?
On the 18th of February.
And did he bring anybody with him?
Little Grant,
How old was little Grant at that time?
21 months.
And when Grant Hayes brought little Grant back to New York, were you aware of any custody situation between Grant and Laura Ackerson?
No, I wasn't. We were just told that he was staying for 2 weeks.
Did he stay for longer than 2 weeks?
Yes.
What did you learn after those 2 weeks had expired?
I was told that Laura had asked if Grant could keep Grant the fourth longer because she was having a hard time taking care of both boys by herself.
Okay, so it's your testimony here today that Laura wanted Grant to keep that little boy longer.
That's what we were told, yes.
Who were you told that by?
Grant.
While you were living in New York, did you work with Grant?
I did.
And what was your role?
I was an assistant and a booking agent.
What was the name of that company?
Rare Breed Entertainment.
And that company, who were its clients?
Grant.
Anybody else?
Not that I knew of.
Had anybody else worked as Grant's assistant or booking agent?
Laura.
And what sort of things would you do for Grant as part of that company?
Pretty much everything, but mainly I called different bars and musical venues, tried to book shows, and I worked with a guy named Peter in New York to build up Grant's electronic press kit.
Okay. At some point, did you come down to North Carolina with Grant?
Yes.
And what brought that on?
My mom and Grant had moved down here to be closer to Laura and Gentle, and that was in May of 2010, and I had come down to visit.
When you moved to New York from the Virgin Islands in January of 2010, what was your mother's career?
She was I mean, she's always had her cosmetology license, so she could have easily gone back to that, but the plan was to go to school.
And for what purpose?
At that point, we didn't really have a plan as soon as we got here. Our first plan of action was to find a place to live.
And so months later, your mother and Grant Hayes and yourself moved to North Carolina.
I didn't move to North Carolina until the beginning of October.
Okay. So what time did the defendant Amanda Hayes and Grant Hayes move down to North Carolina?
May.
And this is May of 2010?
Yes.
And then in September, October of 2010, you follow?
Yes.
And when you got down to North Carolina, where were Amanda and Grant Hayes living?
In the apartment on Bella Park Trail.
Was that off of near the intersection of 70 and Lynn Road?
Yes.
How big is that apartment?
It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
And what bedroom did you live in?
I lived in the bedroom that was off of the living room.
Your cockroach witness.
It's about 5 o'clock. I think we probably need to stop and stop at this time. Folks, I think we're going to stop for the evening. It's about 5 o'clock. I don't want to tarry here too long. You haven't heard it all. Obviously, keep an open mind. Don't form or express any opinion about the guilt or innocence of the defendant in a matter in controversy. Be careful about your conduct and follow my previous instructions. Nancy, let me see up here. We're going to all put our heads together. Obviously, it doesn't look like it's doing anything out there right now. We're going to put our heads together. We don't just rely upon Greg Fischel's Doppler, okay? I mean, you know, we got what, 27 magistrates, 19 district court judges, 10 superior court judges. We have a lot of courts in session every day. One of our courts handles 1,500 people every day, and if we lose a day, it's a pretty big event for us because we have to reschedule everything, not just jury cases but everything. So we are reluctant to stop unless it's clear that the interest of the people here and the public and the safety of everybody is paramount. We're going to put our heads together sometime in the next couple of hours, the Chief District Court Judge, the Chief Magistrate, myself, the clerk, and some other folks, and see if we can make a good call about this. You got numbers for everybody? You can call her up until 10 o'clock on her cell phone. Okay. I will call her earlier than that. And we'll put it on we'll put it in the news too, whether or not court's going to be in session tomorrow. But you actually going to get a lot more notice than anybody else is. I mean, you can actually call Nancy and she'll tell you as soon as she knows, and we'll tell her as soon as we can. I mean, but don't call her after 10 o'clock. Okay. But it'll be on her recording tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning. Certainly by then we'll know something. Because if it's looking like this at 10 o'clock tonight, we're not going to be able to make a decision, frankly. Well, that's just not a responsible thing for us to do until we know something more definite. Okay, so you might want to give her a call sometime between 9 and 10 and see what she knows. All right, have a good evening. Be safe, and we'll see everybody hopefully tomorrow, but if not, as soon thereafter as we can get to you. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Mr. Willoughby will know what we're doing, and he'll notify y'all, and we'll try to let everybody know what the situation is. I suspect that the forecasters are probably right. We're probably going to have a bad day tomorrow, and we're probably not going to be here tomorrow, but hopefully we'll be here on the next day. We'll see. Anything else? Anybody want to be heard further about anything?
Not for the state.
Okay, all right. Sheriff, we'll be in recess till 9:30 in the morning or until soon thereafter as the court can open. Thank you.